A special edition of Football with Farhan and Moj here on a Tuesday night after the passing of legendary coach, broadcaster, video game inspirer John Madden passes away at the age of 85. And Moj, both you and I grew up watching John Madden and really having a love for those teams that he coached in the 70s and with the Raiders. And eventually he winds up making a move into broadcasting. And it's so interesting that he passes just a couple of days after Christmas when Fox released the Madden documentary just chronicling his life, and certainly something he appreciated a lot. And it gave a lot of people who maybe didn't know who John Madden was beyond the person the video game is named after. You know, I talked to my son a few weeks ago. He had come to me and said, "Who's Madden?" Right? Like he had no sense of who John Madden was besides the fact that he was tied to the video game, but there was just so much more to the man. And we got to see a lot of it in that documentary. And just a couple of days later, he passes away, and his legacy and his imprint on the football world has been felt far and wide on this day.
Yeah, I mean, when you think of John Madden, you think of someone who transcended the sport. As you mentioned, there are people out there that aren't football fans or don't know too much about football, but they know of Madden, right? They know of the video game. They know of the analyst. A lot of people don't even realize that he coached, that watched him as an analyst, so you just talk about a bigger than life persona. John Madden was it. I read a story this week on ESPN talking about Ron Wolfley, the Arizona Cardinals color analyst. And Al Michaels is a huge fan of Ron Wolfley. And he said, Ron Wolfley sounds like football, the way he describes a game. And that was Madden, right? Like Madden sounded like football when he described a game.
Yeah, he did. But, I think there was a point in time where you needed to really step back to truly appreciate his greatness, because when I first heard him, I thought, wow, this guy's like so kind of rough around the edges. And it just wasn't what I was used to hearing from a broadcaster. And it was almost an acquired taste if you were very young when he first broke into the industry and, and made the transition from coaching. And certainly I was very young at that time when he first picked up a mic in 1979, and he did it for 30 years and he did it very well. But I mean, at that time, I'm 11 years old. So I don't necessarily appreciate it until you appreciate the game a little bit more. And, you mentioned that he was first a coach. And when John Madden went into the Hall of Fame, he was asked, are you a coach? Are you a broadcaster? Or are you the video game guy? And he said, I'm a coach, always a coach. And because he had that rough around the edges style when he coached as well for a decade, you forget how successful he was. He had a 759 winning percentage as a coach, which is the all-time best in the NFL for anybody who's coached more than 100 games. Now, he didn't have a lot of playoff success outside of the one Super Bowl win in 1976, but won a lot of football games. He was part of some of the most iconic plays in football. He was on the other sideline for the Immaculate Reception. He was part of the Holy Roller when Kenny Stabler fumbled the ball into the end zone. Dave Casper won it, recovered it in the end zone, and they changed the rule because of that. There were just so many moments. And then he winds up leaving coaching and getting into broadcasting at a very young age, just 42 years of age, because he was afraid to fly. So we had the Madden Cruiser, so that became an iconic thing. And then think about when he was a broadcaster, the all Madden team. I mean, players were more interested at one point about being all Madden selections than they were necessarily making it to the Pro Bowl. And then he transitions into the video game world, and your Madden rating matters more than what your PFF rating is from time to time. And so just all those things that he was able to touch and do differently and make us all appreciate him.
Yeah, and you talk about Madden, I mean, turducken, right? I mean, there's another thing that became famous because of John Madden. So yeah, I mean, you look at his impact as a coach and, a great winning percentage, a Super Bowl victory with the Raiders. You look at what he did as a broadcaster. When, you talk about broadcast teams, I mean, Summerall and Madden, I don't know if there's teams out there that are at a higher level than what they brought. Summerall, with the Texas drawl, a former player himself, and then Madden just appealing to the common fan, the common guy, like, describing a field goal missing or hitting an upright, doink, right? I mean, just like I said, the man sounded like football, and he just had this broad appeal to everyone that loved the game because he loved the game so much. And you really saw that in the way he described football and the way he broadcast football and was a color man for football. It was just that passion, that love for the game, and that really connected with a lot of fans.
Yeah, and we'll leave you with this because they say that imitation is the greatest form of flattery. I think the lack of imitation might have been the biggest compliment paid to John Madden because I think people understood that only he could do it. We've seen others kind of touch it a little bit, Tony Saraguso, who we had on our show before. I mean, there were some people that just tried to be that guy, but for the
Matt
most part,
Millen, Matt Millen a little bit, Bill Moss a little bit,
yeah,
but
a little bit. But I to just kind of reinforce that nobody really made a career of trying to be like Madden. You could do it a little bit. He made it okay to not have to sound totally slick and technical, to be raw. He made that okay, but generally nobody tried to be Madden because they knew they simply couldn't. And for me, I think that's the greatest compliment to him because of the unique style he did. We all admired it. We all loved it. We all just appreciated it. But we knew that at the end of the day, there was only one John Madden. John Madden passes away at the age of 85. And we're um, happy to talk about it. I guess happy is probably not the right word today, but certainly inspired to talk about it right now.
well, I think the big thing is when you think of John Madden and us talking about it, it's paying respect to John Madden and the impact that he had on the game of football and how, again, he transcended the sport.
Football with Farhan and Moj, a special John Madden edition brought to you by West Coast Auto Group and Chambers of Commerce Group Insurance.